PayPal, okay? PayPal's 60 bucks a share roughly here today, okay? And this is the easiest money I've seen in the market from a risk reward standpoint since Meta in the fourth quarter of 2022, okay? And obviously, I'm starting to position into shares in quite a substantial way, and I don't see that slowing down. And if PayPal goes down anymore, I'm going to do some major buys in regards to this one, okay? Now, obviously, you can just buy shares straight up, but you can also buy options. If that's something somebody wants to play, you could look at something like long-term options, something that expires January 2025. I believe they do have December 2025s out there for PayPal as well, right? So if you wanted to play a little higher risk, but let's say risk less capital, like let's say you're in a position where you're like, I could put, let's say you thought PayPal's a great deal, and you say, I could buy $30,000 of stock, or, straight up, or I could risk, let's just say $5,000 in options, right? Because I don't want to risk actually $30,000 in that. I'd rather put in the $25,000 over here, and I'll risk $5,000 in PayPal options, right? You could do something like that. And so if you're a little lower risk, you could do something like $50 strikes here on PayPal. You would have to pay a little less than $20, right? And so basically $70 would be your break even. So the stock's around 60-ish right now, right? So $70 is your break even. You need it at least at $70 roughly by January 2025 to break even on it. Now, for every $20, it's above that, right? You're going to make your initial investment back, right? And then again for every $20 past that. So it is something to keep in mind there, right? If you're a little more of a mild risk options person, then you could buy racing. This is roughly right what the stock's trading at right now, right around 60. And you have to pay around $14 for that, right? That would put, in terms of your overall, what you need the stock at, you need it at about $74 in regards to kind of your break even there, roughly, right? So, obviously you're taking a little more risk, but at the same time, if you get a major move up, you're going to benefit more. Let's say the stock goes to $150 or $200, you're going to benefit more than you would if you owned these ones, okay? Then you get the medium risk guy. So this is $70 strikes. You'd pay about $10 for these. Maybe you get a little less than $10, right? So it puts your break even at about $80 there, roughly, right? But every $10 above $80 it is, you make your initial investment back, right? And again. And I mean, imagine the stock's, $150, $200. By the time January 2025 rolls around, oh my gosh, you're looking pretty in that situation, right? Then there's a high option. This is if you want to take high risk, right? Then you could buy something like $100 strikes, right? You would pay about $3 for those. And I mean, obviously, you're taking a much bigger risk, right? Because now your break even's $103 roughly, right? But on the flip side, you could say, well, if this stock rolls and, let's say you're expecting the stock to double up or triple up over the next, year and a half or so. I mean, obviously the gains would be substantial, right? You could be looking at a 10x your money, 15x, 20x, 30x, something like that, in regards to that. And then there's the last guy. This is the guy your mom warned you about, options guy. He's the craziest one of the bunch, right? He goes for the glory and all the failure as well. And you're going to have to take a lot of failure. You're doing stuff like this. This is basically taking it out to double the price right now, right? So $120 strikes. You'd only have to pay about $1.50 for those. And obviously, if PayPal booms, I mean, my gosh, the percentage gains you're going to have if the stock's $150, $200 in January 2025 is insane, right? But at the same time, I mean, you need the stock to double up pretty much just to break even. So it's a massive risk reward play there, okay? So that's just, one of many options, obviously, people have out there if you want to play a stock, and depending upon how much money you want to funnel in. I personally prefer usually to just buy stocks straight up because, I mean, for me, it's less stress. Yeah, I have to allocate a bigger portion of money than you might through options, right? But I don't put myself under a time frame. The scary thing about putting yourself under a time frame is what happens if the market's really bad for the next 18 months, PayPal doesn't do good. That's the risk with that, right? And your options expire worthless and you're like, oh, this is so frustrating, right? So the name of the game when it comes to options, I think, is just don't risk the farm, especially on options, right? You got to always be positioned mainly in long positions. And if you want to do something like that, you got to position small because, yeah, it's great when things go right, but man, you never know. What if the Nasdaq goes down 30% over the next 18 months? It's always a possibility, right? And what does that mean for PayPal? So these are things to kind of keep in mind. Oh, stop it, Cathie Wood. Please. No. Okay. Oh gosh, where do I even start with this one? She just brought up a price to sales ratio, a trailing 12-month price to sales ratio. Stop it, Cathie Wood. Okay. in all due respect to everybody watching this is not how you value a company by looking at it and saying it trades at XXX, past price to sales ratio. That's not how you do this game, okay? All companies in all industries are going to command very different price to sales ratios. One, that's the first thing to, look at a retailer. Retailers you can get for less than a 1 price to sales ratio. There's retailers I own personally that probably trade at a 0.2, 0.3 price to sales ratio. There's other stocks I hold that trade at a 10, 15 price to sales ratio. And it does not mean this one's more undervalued than this one. That's not how this works at all, okay? Because the profit margins are immensely different than net income margins, okay? The second thing, and this is most important for everybody to keep this in mind, okay? When you have a epic growth company, which NVIDIA is certainly in that category, right? They're expected to grow revenue 60+% next quarter on a year-over-year basis. You don't look at the past price to sales ratios. It's completely irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything. When you're in that ultra growth stage, and that goes for NVIDIA, that goes for Tesla, it goes for any of those companies that experience massive growth, looking at the past doesn't tell you the future. It's irrelevant in that when you got a massive growth company, right? If I start a lemonade stand and, the first year we do, $50,000 in revenue, and then it goes viral on social media, and all of a sudden we're starting to do, $50 million a week in sales. Guess what? My old price to sales ratio is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's going on now and what's going to happen in future years and running your projections based upon that, okay? So, man, that's, come on, Cathie Wood. But Cathie Wood, okay, if I was talking to her right now, I'd say, wait a minute, Cathie Wood. What you're saying, you're basically saying that these other companies, Google, Meta, all these other companies are going to come out with chips just as good as NVIDIA, okay? That's the same argument that people make about guess what stock? Tesla. The competition's coming. Ford, GM, Toyota, Honda, they're all going to be coming out with EVs and it's all going to take out Tesla, right? It's the same argument. Just because people are going to try to do something does not mean they're going to be as successful or even remotely close to as successful. As of right now, NVIDIA has no competition in the chip space. AMD is coming. AMD will be a competitive threat to NVIDIA. But with that being said, we know those two get along pretty well, and they both thrive together. Look at NVIDIA's market cap 10 years ago. Look at AMD's market cap 10 years ago. Look at those market caps and those stock prices today. Look at where their revenues were 10 years ago versus where they are today, their net incomes, their margins. And so that's the race. These other companies, Google, Meta, and whatnot, they're trying to come out with their own chips to do their own specific problems and solve those things. And who knows how successful or not successful those will be over time, right? But yeah, the competition's coming. We know in technology that's a tough game to play. People did that same exact game with Apple as well. The competition's coming. And sure enough, yeah, every company out there launched a smartphone. Even Flippin' Flapjack and Amazon launched a smartphone. How many were actually successful? How many actually made the big money? These are things you have to take into account when it comes to tech.